Welcome to Hear Her Story podcast produced by the Women in Manufacturing Association. I'm thrilled to have as our guest today, Mary Ellen Grom, Executive Director of Customer Experience Solutions at AFL. Mary Ellen has been a supporter of WIM for quite some time now. She currently chairs the Women in Manufacturing Education Foundation, and her company, AFL, is a corporate member of the Women in Manufacturing Association. So welcome, Mary Ellen.
Awesome. Thank you, Allison. It's great to be here. Look forward to chatting this morning.
Great. Well, we really appreciate your support, your participation in our Education Foundation and our association, and as well the support and participation of your company. You know, as you know, we talk to many women in industry and guests that have been part of our podcast. We often love to talk about their journey, kind of what did they want to be when they grew up? What were those things that excited them as a younger girl and individual? And would love to hear a little bit about kind of your background, where you grew up, and what were those things that you were interested in pursuing when you were your younger self?
Absolutely. Who doesn't like to talk about themselves, right? So, it's really kind of bizarre, but early on, I kind of just knew marketing, advertising was where I wanted to grow up into and take my education path down that journey. So it was interesting. I always kind of wanted to be an advertising account executive. I don't know that I knew at the time what that was, but of course you have big stars in your eyes about Madison Avenue, advertising agencies and things like that, and working on accounts like Budweiser beer or the NFL Super Bowl, right? Those are the things that we think about. But in 7th grade, I thought, I got to do something here. So I pursued journalism and media arts and broadcasting all the way through high school, and then got a degree at the Ohio State University in marketing communications. So I kind of just stayed the course there. And, it's funny, I still have the first ad that I ever drew back in grade school for a product of nail polish called Durashell. It's funny. I just always thought it would be a cool job doing things like that, naming products, whether it be cars, perfumes, cereals. I was like, who sits around and thinks about this? So that's kind of what started the journey, I guess.
That's really neat. And I love that you still have your first ad from the nail polish you created, Durashell. I'm sure it was long lasting and very strong.
It was. And the spokesperson was a turtle.
I love it. That is funny. And, I likewise, when I was younger, wanted to be a kind of fashion designer. And I still have some of my old sketches that I had when I was in 6th, 7th grade of the amazing dresses I was going to manufacture in New York City as well. We could have been roomies there, living in the Big Apple with our marketing and our fashion aspirations.
Yeah.
So you had this interest, a long time interest in marketing and communication and early interest in advertising. So how did that translate professionally for your professionally as you graduated from the Ohio State University? Where did you take your kind of interest and apply it professionally?
Yeah, good question. So never even imagined manufacturing would be a part of my career. But I have to say the first 25 years out of college, I spent in high-tech distribution channel marketing. So always B2B. And it was interesting because during that part of the journey, I owned everybody else's brands. So in distribution, you stock your shelves with Microsoft, with Hewlett Packard, with IBM, with all these technology products that I was fortunate to be able to market day in and day out. But I never worked for those companies. I worked for the distributor, which is an odd kind of marketing situation. So in 2017, when I decided I need to make a pivot, I thought, where do I need to go? I'd like to stay in high tech, but not sure where. And it's funny when you make the decision to make a career change, when the phone rings and it's a recruiter, you pick it up and you listen to what they have to say. And when I heard about AFL and the manufacturing side of things, and obviously being in the telecommunications industry with so much opportunity, And then I thought, wow, this is my opportunity here to own a brand and walk inside of an organization and lead marketing and inside sales and customer service for a signature brand in our industry. And so marketing really led me to manufacturing. I can't say that manufacturing found me, but my degree brought me here.
Excellent. So how has it been to kind of lead this brand in manufacturing? How has it differed from your past or your prior 25 years working in that B2B space? And as well, have there been some unique challenges that you've had to overcome in your current role or responsibility, or in your past roles as you kind of led your way or found your way to manufacturing?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge in the past, I can't say that here because one of my pivot requirements was to stay off the road a little bit more. Throughout my career, I've had the fortunate ability to travel, which is great. But when you've got two small kids and a husband trying to grow his business back at home, it makes it really difficult. And I found myself coming to the realization that, if you're a wife, you're a mom, you're a professional, you're a Christian, you're a volunteer, right? Because philanthropy has always been a part of my path. But I really challenged myself to better understand there's no way I can be good at all of those things all of the time. And really focused on being present and intentional no matter what I was doing, right? If I'm on the baseball field or the volleyball court, let's go to mom mode. If you're on stage or in a breakout session at an industry conference, let's get our work brain in motion and our networking game in motion and really kind of be present no matter where I am, knowing that there were sacrifices along the way. So that's really kind of where the biggest challenge went. But now that I'm here at AFL, the challenges are a little bit different because I didn't want to travel as much, but at the same time, I had to learn a new industry. I didn't know a single person that worked inside the walls of this company, yet coming from 25 years in distribution, which is a very tight-knit, large industry. But man, does it pay not to burn your bridges and really protect your reputation along the way.
So you talked a little bit about that mix of all the different roles and hats that we as working women wear, being a mom, a wife, a professional, trying to maybe even, as you said, give some of our time for volunteerism or some of the charitable things we're passionate about. That's something I hugely struggled with for, I'd say, much of my early career when my kids were little in particular. And that's that I think lack of balance that we sometimes are aspiring for. And it's really difficult to have. And travel definitely takes its toll on our relationships, on family. And I know I personally make it a commitment post-pandemic to really try to reevaluate travel and prioritize what is that travel that's most necessary. And then looking real significantly at the impact it has when we are on the road. I think for
Yeah.
years, you don't realize, I think, until I have been more intensely home for the past 2 years, like, holy cow, did it disrupt things when I was often on the road for days upon days or full weeks or week after week. So it's tough. And I think one of the things I've noticed is that we might have that great intention, as you said, of being present, but there are still going to be disruptions. You could have a kid disruption, a kid being sick, an issue that pops up that can completely throw all of your most well-intentioned plans of being present at a conference or being present in your work mode that day, that can really throw it upside down when something happens in personal life or in some other area.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And but there's only so much you can do when you're traveling. If something happens back home, I mean, you've got to show care, you've got to show concern, you got to make phone calls if you need doctor's appointments scheduled or whatever. But there's really only so much you can do. And after I realized that, that's where I was okay with the fact that I was away. And when you build that support network around you, whether it's your partner, your spouse, your immediate family, whoever's taking care of things, I don't care if it's your dog sitter or your landscaper, you just have to walk away knowing that things are going to get done and the world's going to revolve without you being there, right? Even though you kind of want to control everything into a little bubble. But yeah, it's tough. It's all about compromise. I threw away the word balance because I don't think I've been balanced since I was born. I really don't. I use the word compromise and shift those priorities depending on where I am, what I'm doing, and who I'm with.
Yeah, I love that. I think embracing that idea that it is about compromise. And I think you made a great point about asking for help and having those support networks.
Mhm.
I, for many years, when I first got started and I moved into an elevated role and I was traveling more, I wanted to do it all myself. I wanted to be the superhero woman that was able to still volunteer at school, make home baked goods, do everything and everything myself. And I didn't want to ask for help because to me that was I felt like that was a failure or wow, why should I have to ask people for assistance? And I was losing my sanity at the same time. I was, exhausted and tired and feeling like I wasn't excelling at any of the things I was doing because, I was trying to do them at the wee hours of the morning, baking things for that day or just crazy stuff and putting too much of a burden on ourselves. But I think that piece that you mentioned, support is so critical.
Yeah,
And it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to as well say no. And what I found is that I had to reevaluate what were some of those things I'm volunteering for. Like, for example, at the kids' school, was that really benefiting them? Was that really impacting them positively? Or was it rather more important for me to maybe donate the money towards the fundraiser and spend more
right.
time one-on-one with my kids alternatively, which is going to make them happier, make them feel more comforted, more, uh, more parented and more loved and all those things. So it's really tough and support is critical.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
So as we look at kind of all the things that you've experienced professionally, have there been some lessons learned that have kind of stood out for you as you look at your 25 years at your prior company and current position with AFL? Are there some of those like lessons learned as a professional woman that, you've shared with other women, young women, or women who are kind of current in industry and in careers that you've mentored them and talked to them about that provide as great advice?
Yeah, gosh, the lessons learned, heavens. It's probably in the biggest surprises and the biggest mistakes where the learnings come out of. And I've always been taught to really look at mistakes as an opportunity to change, an opportunity to learn, use it as a silver lining to do something better, different, faster, more efficient the next time. And don't get hung up on maybe that it wasn't a success, but rather take what you learned from that and keep building forward and growing forward and not just dwelling on what really happened. It always feels worse than it is, right? I mean, we get inside our heads when things go wrong, and we can't do that to ourselves. And I think females are a lot more emotional than our male counterparts, and we tend to really kind of get caught up in those emotions. And I've tried hard from the beginning to build emotional intelligence and to build self-confidence that when you walk in a room, you're smart, you've got credentials, you are equals to whoever's standing in that room or sitting at that boardroom table, and don't let them get inside your head. Just go in with the person that you are and really use what you've built for your reputation and your credentials and your track record, right? Because people have results. I mean, that's why we get up every morning, is to make a difference. And as long as you know that going in and you don't feel a sense of intimidation or know that you're going to be singled out or put in the spotlight or look different from people in the room, don't let that get inside your head. Just go in knowing what you do and what you do well and play to your strengths and be yourself. So I think that's probably the best lesson. And I have to say, I learned that from my dad.
That's a great lesson to learn. And you spoke to that, that sadly that commonality that it seems that many young women, especially young professional women, that there's that confidence gap and that
Yeah.
need for women to kind of have that confidence to feel comfortable, especially in industries where often they are the minority and where
Yeah.
maybe they are one of a few women in that boardroom or their conversation. So, combating that intimidation, owning their expertise, having confidence in their ability, it is so really important. And I always love the phrase that I think some of our guests have stated before, that fake it till you make it as well. So, you're not going to have every single item, for example, memorized on a rate sheet or rate card. You're not going to know every single thing, but that's okay. You can learn skill sets, you can absorb information, you can become expert in your area. But that happens over time, and it's not
Right.
going to happen overnight. So you
Yeah.
also talked about kind of bringing yourself to that room and kind of owning yourself and your abilities. When you think of kind of that concept of being your authentic self, have you experienced kind of a transformation for yourself professionally as you've moved into more senior positions at your companies, that you feel more comfortable being your whole self and your real self at work? And do you encourage, and how do you encourage other women to do the same at your company?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, through initiatives and associations like WIM, it's always good to have the power of a community behind you, that, first of all, we're not alone. There's power in numbers. We're all looking to achieve similar results. I mean, no doubt about it. Even if you're not in the same room, having those types of connections and a reliable sounding board and people who can help you through whatever it is. You can pick up the phone or send a chat or a text or whatever it is, just having those people on your shoulder every day, just knowing that you've got an army of people who have either come before or who are going down the same path that you are. But, I've always thought, sometimes you feel left out. And I don't even know where I heard this, but I was like, okay, that is exactly what we need to do. That if you feel like you don't have a seat at the table, that if you're not given a role on a project or an initiative, or you're not being promoted to whatever position you think you need to graduate into next, just because you don't have a seat at the table doesn't mean that you don't have a voice. And guess what? You can go out and you can build your own table, right? I mean, why not? And that's kind of the path to WIM, quite honestly, because I came inside this organization and I said, there's a lot more women here than I've ever worked with. How come we aren't like celebrating this? And whether it's the production side of our business or the professional side of AFL, I was like, wow, we need some champions, and we need to celebrate what we're doing around here. And usually when I switch jobs or take on new endeavors, I try to leave that first year as, man, I got to figure out what I'm doing before I start raising my hand and volunteering for things. But I'll never forget the day that I Googled women in manufacturing. And of course, you guys have it all figured out. You come right up in the top results on Google. And I thought, okay, well, there's a whole organization dedicated to exactly what I'm looking to do. And again, you need that tribe and that community to kind of help you, not only externally, but internally as a person and internally here at our company. And then it gave me the momentum to say, okay, there's a whole organization out here. Now, how can we use that to build another way to communicate with females inside of AFL, which was the birth of our Women Everywhere Connect employee resource group. And, again, it's just finding like-minded people going through similar situations and really kind of pulling people together to motivate and inspire and educate and just keep the empowerment going. Because in the past, there's been so much finger pointing and so much blame, and sometimes the sisterhood is better at condemning each other than we are lifting each other up. And I don't see that as much anymore throughout business and industry, which I think is transformational. I really do.
I think it's great, as you said, when a sisterhood can rather than tear one another down, be more supportive and to have each other's back. And I likewise, when we started the organization 10.5 years ago, my fear is that the positive pieces of kind of female support and sisterhood that they wouldn't rise immediately. And it's been amazing to see in our journey over the last decade that it's really been such a positive spirit that has come about through us connecting women, us having individuals interact, making introductions. There's been that great sentiment of having the best interest for all at hand, and women really rising to want to see others do well, successful, and be successful, rather than be each other's foes, being each other's allies. So it's been a very positive experience. It's not always been that way, though. And I
Right.
think that it's a great, I think, initiative for each of us to be each other's allies in this effort for us all to be successful in this male-dominated industry.
Yep.
So you talked a little bit about the creation of your women's affinity group. What does that look like? Has it been, a year or two in the making? Has it kind of gone off without a hitch? Have there been any lessons learned as you've created your women's employee resource group?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can't say it went off without a hitch. Thank you, COVID, because we really started picking up momentum right during the holiday season of 2019. And then, of course, you build your membership, you get the program launched in August, September, you have your first holiday social event. We had scheduled some speakers to come into the company. And of course, then, you just gotta turn on a dime and make that happen virtually, which we all have become pros at. But, I think the program definitely, it's brought women closer together. It's formed us into walking groups when the weather's nice. Hey, let's meet at the bridge and do 10 laps around the parking lot because the leaves are falling and the sun is shining. I mean, before that might have been happening, but it wasn't happening enough. You saw too many people eating alone in cafes or eating at their desk, right? And who wants to do that? Life is too short. And since the launch of the program, we have actually extended a chapter in Vancouver. So our services organization embraced it right from the start. And obviously, it's very hard to do across the world inside the walls of a global company. So we started that as a pilot with just professional associates in our Greenville Spartanburg headquarters to get us started and to figure it out, right? It was a pilot. Let's get our feet wet before we try to conquer world peace with an affinity group. And it's really kind of blossomed into people making it their own. They'll take the backbone of the program, but then of course adapt it to their region, to their culture, their subculture, and really what matters to the women in their geography. So yeah, but definitely the virtual side of it makes it really hard to be an affinity group when we're all electronic, but we're doing the best that we can.
Are you feeling inspired by our guest's manufacturing journey? Elevate your own path to success by enrolling in an education program produced by the Women in Manufacturing Education Foundation. The WIMEF creates opportunities for you to collaborate, network, learn, and grow through our programs, which are built for individuals from all areas of manufacturing, from production floor leaders to the C-suite. Graduates gain actionable insights and competencies needed to grow in the manufacturing space. For more information on the educational programs delivered through the Women in Manufacturing Education Foundation, please visit our website at www.wimef.org. So you talked about 2021, 2022. I cannot believe is not that many weeks away. And holy cow, we're almost at holidays and the chaos of year end for this lovely year. I was just sending a note to someone this week and I said, I'm just looking forward to whatever improved 2022 can look like, or whatever improvements it can bring to what this year had brought us. So as you look forward to next year, have you done any goal setting for yourself personally and professionally?
I can't say that I've done that yet for next year because I think, this year it's been a tough year. There's no doubt about it. I changed my path here at AFL about the same time that I committed to step up into the role as chair for the Education Foundation. And then a mere short couple of months later, my mom got really sick. And since then I've lost my mom, inherited the whole family estate. And being 600 miles away from where it is all happening, I have been living so much for each minute of every day. I can't say that I've done a very, very good job setting my sights high for 2022, but I will get there. But 2021, I started out, I try to keep this simplistic. I know a lot of people get really, really in the weeds on goal planning. I've gone with that one word idea for about the last 20 years. And it really works for me because it helps me stay focused. So for 2021, I wanted to use it as the year of curiosity. And that was because I knew I was stepping up into a new role here at AFL, and I needed to find ways to be a little bit more spontaneous and to ask more questions. Don't just accept things as status quo. And that's usually what I do, is try to define what does that one word mean for me as I go forward. And of course, it's going to change throughout the course of the year, but because my curiosity stopped peaking when hardships happen. That's where you really kind of sink backwards a little bit, and rightly so. I think we all got to give ourselves permission to lose sight of what we set out to do because of something that came our way that we didn't plan for. But yeah, so curiosity has been fun, and I hope to use the last couple of months of this year to continue that journey. But professionally, I told myself I got to really focus on managing what I can control and helping my new team and my previous marketing teams really, really do the same. And you're right, we talked about the compromise and how do we make things work. And I did learn that, if you say yes to one thing, you've really got to say no to something else. And that's worked well. And you got to pull back the reins a little bit when you're stepping up. And I think if you focus on what you can control and don't worry about what everybody else has to do. But for some reason, everybody thinks they know how to do marketing. So everybody wants to control our world, right? Everybody thinks they can design things and plan fun parties, but we actually do more than that. So we try to not lose sight of that.
I think that's a great. I love your concept of kind of picking a word or concept, because I think we all get into, I do it as well. The new year will be coming upon us, and I'll come up with 5 or 6 very detailed things that I want to be doing. And they're very, aspirational, but I think having a word that's of inspiration or focus, I think is a really great idea. And I might have to adopt that.
Yeah, it helps. It really does. And I always choose a book on the topic at the beginning of the year. And I have my year of endurance, which was before I came to AFL. There's a book out there called Endurance, which is just, it's life shattering. And it's about a sea captain back in the early 1900s who gets shipwrecked in an ice storm. And it's one of those things that you just walk away after reading that and you go, okay, Captain Shackelford here has some serious problems. I don't have that. And it really kind of helps keep you grounded. Like, I would never search out a book about that topic, right? But it kind of helps me branch out my reading portfolio at the same time. I've found some interesting things along the way to read.
I like it. Year of endurance. I'm gonna have to, you'll have to maybe share some of your past years for inspiration for me and others.
Yeah, it's fun.
So speaking of favorites and books, we often like to close our conversations with guests of Hear Her Story with some rapid fire questions of some recommendations and favorites that you might lend to our audience. So the first is, do you have a favorite quote that you have taken inspiration from or that you highly like?
Yeah. It's actually my own that I developed about 10 years ago. I always used to love the idea of connecting the dots. I'm a thinker, I'm analytical, but I'm also a very significant people person. I thrive on people. And I thought, you know what? I need to reverse engineer that a little bit. So it's connect the people, the dots will follow. Because I've learned along the way, every person that comes into my life is there for a reason. And if you can connect the people and really get to know them, him or her, you may not need them right away, but at some point in time, you'll probably have to go back to them and really figure out, how do I connect the dots, whether it's a research project that you're doing or getting your kids' applications out through colleges, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Someone's going to pop into your head that you connected with along the way, and they're going to help you connect those dots. So connect the people, the dots will follow has served me very well.
Love that. That's a great quote, and I love that you created it.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite book?
Yeah, I have to go to my faith and my spirituality and say the Bible. There's so many stories in there that have gotten me through the best of times and the worst of times. And it's just a tried and true circulation of anything that comes into my life. And I love being able to rely on the Bible for just about everything and anything.
We're obviously participating in a podcast today. Do you have a favorite podcast that is your go-to or that you listen to regularly?
I do. Harvard Business Review. Again, they take deep dives onto topics and really get to the heart of the matter and really enjoy those, whether it's windshield time or travel time or whatever downtime we can find, right? Or sometimes just having it on in the background. You know, you hear something, it kind of stops you in your tracks. So Harvard Business Review is where I'll go first.
I'll have to check that out. And then I'm sure, you know, it sounds like you've prioritized and been able to make, you know, kind of that better integration of work life, family balance, all of that kind of thing. So as you look at how do you spend how do you enjoy spending your downtime presently?
Yeah, definitely reading. I just wish I could stay awake longer at night. Lately, when I get into the bed, I'm so exhausted, I fall right asleep. So that Kindle doesn't stay lit very long. But I love to read and I can't find enough time to do it. But I do love having a lake house. It's our escape. There's no phone, there's no TV, there's no internet. It is birds chirping, putting puzzles together with the family, going out on the boat, sitting on the dock. And it's just, it's our little slice of heaven. So we're fortunate to have that in our lives. And then, you know, travel volleyball has been a part of our family for the past 4 years. And when you do that sort of thing, I was like, wow, okay, I'm not traveling for work, but here I am on the road all the time for a sport for my child. I don't know what I don't think I knew what I signed up for, but wherever we go, we try to do something fun and be a tourist in the cities that we go to and never eat at a restaurant that we can eat at home or try to find the waterfront dining. And boy, have we found some interesting, weird places in cities with no water that they say it's waterfront dining, but okay, that's like a puddle. But we'll take it. So yeah, just kind of kicking back when we get that chance for sure.
Excellent. We do travel baseball, and likewise. I don't think we knew what we were in for when we first got involved with this with my son, but it's been fun. You build a community with the other parents and you get to see places, for us at least, mostly in our own state that we never would have gone to. So it's a fun experience.
Yeah.
So travel, you talked a little bit about travel and cutting down on travel, at least work or professional travel in recent years. What was the last place you traveled and where do you next plan to travel?
Yeah. Well, coincidentally, I was with all of you awesome people at WIM Summit in Cleveland. Gosh, it was already weeks ago. It feels like it was this morning. I don't know where time is going. So I was in Cleveland, and right before that took a leisure trip to spend time with my sister-in-law and mother-in-law in Brevard, North Carolina, which is a beautiful part of the country, and leaves right now are at peak. But I'll tell you, it's not about where I've been. I'm really looking forward to what comes next, because Thanksgiving, my family of 4 is embarking on a journey to the unknown in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands. And, you know, in 2018, I planned this ultimate Italian, Greek, Mediterranean cruise that never happened in 2020. It never happened in 2021, and then they canceled it. So I said, all right, well, I got to use some flight credits here. So we got to go somewhere. So we'll see how St. Croix is. And I don't even care if it rains every single day, a rainy day at the beach is better than anywhere else, right?
Fully agree. I love it. And the U.S. Virgin Islands are beautiful. I had my honeymoon there and it was just gorgeous.
Yeah.
So we'll close today's conversation as we do with many of our other Hear Her Story sessions, where we ask for your final piece of advice that you would want to share with the next generation of women in manufacturing.
Absolutely. There's so many of them out there. So, and we've got to do a better job to get inside their minds earlier so that they understand what manufacturing is all about. And it's not dirty and dangerous and dreary and factories and sweating and fans blowing on you, right? It's just not that. And I encourage anyone embarking on this journey to just get out there and do what you do. And there's probably a place for you in manufacturing, whatever it is that you do, whether you're in welding or finance or HR or sales, quality control, shipping and receiving, logistics, doesn't matter. Manufacturing is here and it affords you an opportunity to be your ultimate best every single day. And don't forget that we in manufacturing have to tell others about what we're doing, because it's our words and our work and what we've built that will pave the way for who comes next and build that runway for someone else to take off in their career in manufacturing. I think it's so important and vibrant and thriving, but I also think it's really, really important that people understand, always don't lose sight of planning for your financial future. And as women, sometimes we sink back and let others do that for us, whether it's our families or our partners, or we just ignore it altogether. It is so important to build not only for the life that you have now, but invest for the time of your golden moments. And it really helps early on to get your 401k, build out mutual funds, take a class, read The Millionaire Next Door, or Smart Women Finish Rich. Those are books that you'll just walk away from and go, wow, I probably should have done that 10 years ago. But don't forget to live within your means and save, because hopefully it will do me well in the future and give you passion for whoever's coming behind you, whether it's your family or where you invest your money long term. So awesome.
Great recommendations, Mary Ellen. It was such a delight to have you as a guest on our podcast today. It's always such fun to talk with you and connect with you. Thank you for all that you're doing to support women in industry and women at your organization, and obviously the many women connected to our association. So thanks so much for all you do, and thanks for being a part of our podcast today.
Absolutely. Thrilled to do it and really look forward to all that's next with WIM. You guys really pull out all the stops when it comes to your events, bringing people together, programs, education, and we need more of it. But the future's so bright, right?
Definitely. Well, thanks, Mary Ellen. It was a delight to talk to you today. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon. Thank you for listening to Hear Her Story, a podcast produced by the Women in Manufacturing Association. Be sure to share, review, and subscribe to Hear Her Story on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen. In the past 10 years, more than 3,000 new apprenticeship programs have been established within U.S. manufacturing, representing 128% growth within the industry. This isn't surprising, since registered apprenticeship programs give employers access to a diverse pool of talented potential employees. The Women in Manufacturing Association has partnered with Jobs for the Future to connect our members and their companies with a streamlined way of recruiting, retaining, and training women in manufacturing through their own registered apprenticeship programs. For more information on how to build your own registered apprenticeship program, please visit our website at womeninmanufacturing.org.